today. My name is Graeme Keith. I'm practice lead for risk quantification at Archer Integrated Risk Management. My job is to help enterprises bring the insight and clarity of quantitative risk assessment to their GRC programs and to help Archer define what good quant GRC looks like and tailor our software to deliver that. Some of you may know me from previous risk awareness weeks, where I've been less over in the enterprise risk management camp and more in the bespoke mathematical modeling camp. This presentation kind of maps that journey a bit through the complex, probably slightly abusive, certainly rather intense relationship I have with bowtie diagrams. What is a bowtie analysis? Bowtie analysis is an attempt to bring structure into the analysis of risk. This is both its great strength and its great weakness. Strength, because they synthesize uncertainties from the occurrence of certain categories of event and from the consequences when those events occur. Strength, because this structure allows us to build repeatable workflows around the assessment of risks. Weakness, because they impose that structure even when it's not appropriate. Many risks, understood as uncertainties that impact objectives, are not contingent on the occurrence of any event at all. The synthesis is valuable because it motivates the search for both interventions and controls that can prevent events occurring, as well as mitigations and palliations that can ameliorate their effects when they do. Indeed, the bowtie is exactly designed to articulate this management structure. Bowties have many forms and variations, but broadly we have here in the middle the category of uncertain event that we're trying to manage. Now to the left here, what I will for now call causes of that event, and in between, the controls that should intervene between the things that cause the event and the event itself. Similarly, out here on the right, we have consequences should the event transpire, and we have the mitigations we put in place to try to tame the severity of those consequences or prevent them altogether from transpiring. And here we have the other great liability of bowtie analysis. They affect to be causal, both in the sense that they proffer putative causes out here on the left, and in the sense that they feign to illustrate causal relations. But these are not causes, and these are not causal relations. The foil of the bowtie is a causal diagram, an explicit account of the relationship between all the component parts of an uncertainty. Causal diagrams are, unsurprisingly, by definition and by construction, causal, and they make no demands on the relationship between components. They're much harder to systematize. They require a fair amount of experience to build, and they lack the compelling narrative simplicity of the bowtie. But this presentation is really a comparison between bowties and causal diagrams. Is the extra work and narrative complexity of a causal map ever warranted next to the accessibility and consistency of its simple bastard cousin? To make this comparison, I'm going to talk a bit about causality and then build both a causal map and a bowtie for simple illustrative risk. I'll use the same example to talk about causes. So what is a cause? Given how central the notion of causality is to so much failure analysis and risk analysis, you think this would be pretty easy to pin down. But the concept of cause is surprisingly slippery. Naively, you might think that a cause of an event was a necessary condition for that event to take place. But this is too broad. The presence of oxygen is a necessary condition for a warehouse fire. We'd hardly want to call that a cause. It's also too narrow. A short circuit isn't necessary to cause a warehouse fire. There might be a disgruntled ex-employee arsonist, but you certainly want the spark in your list of possible causes in a risk analysis. Are causes then sufficient conditions? But this is also clearly too narrow. Leaving combustible cardboard boxes lying around your warehouse is certainly a potential cause of our warehouse fire. It's hardly sufficient. Can we do better? When I first started researching causality, I discovered a book called, encouragingly, Causality. Contained 23 different accounts of causality by 23 different philosophers. I was optimistic there might be sufficient overlap in these accounts that I could come up with something workable, good enough for practical purposes. It turned out the only thing these 23 different philosophers agreed on was that the other 22 philosophers were wrong. Nonetheless, many of these accounts were, if not clearly wrong to an armchair philosopher such as me, very clearly unworkable and impractical. But there was one account, due to the brilliant, if somewhat idiosyncratic, American philosopher David Lewis, that seemed not only more robust against the slings and arrows of his professional colleagues, but also entirely workable in a practical context. Lewis says, and I'm really paraphrasing here, an event X is the cause of an event Y if, for all other things being equal, if X hadn't happened, then Y would not have happened. This he calls the counterfactual account. The for all other things being equal here